All right, everybody, here's review 3. Let's see. So what I had to do is build a box from a piece of cardboard. It was 18 by 24, so I cut out the little squares and then built the box. When you build the box, it changes the shape. So the height is X, the width is 24 minus 2X, and the length is 18 minus 2X. So then volume would be length times width times height. I put that equation in my calculator. I graphed it. I went and looked for the maximum value, and I wound up getting the maximum value at, boom, boom, at about 3.4 and about 655. So that's the cut. So then to get the actual dimensions, that's this. And I plugged the 3.4 in for X to get the width, and then I put the 3.4 in for X here to get the depth, okay? The volume is the Y value, which is 655, okay? Number 2, I wanted to graph the function. If it's the square root of X minus 3, then it's a square root graph in blue. If I need the inverse, I switch the variables, X and Y. I solve by squaring, I added 3, so this is the inverse equation. Now that's a parabola, so I gotta be careful because I'm not gonna do the back half because I don't have a bottom half of the square root graph. So then the domain is of the inverse is X is greater than 0, but the range of the inverse is Y is greater than or equal to 3, okay? Number 3, it's composite functions. I have to put 3 into X for f of X, so I get 3 plus 1 is 4, square root of 4 is 2, then I plug the 2 into the G, and I get 3 times 2 squared, which is 12, okay? Now I'm going to do just the opposite, put 1 into G, and I get 1 squared is 1 times 3 is 3, and then I put that answer 3 into f of X, 3 plus 1 is 4, square root of 4 is 2, okay? And then C, I'm going to put the entire f of X equation into G of X, so it's 3 times the square root, but I'm going to put the square root of X plus 1 in for X squared, squared it, because square and square root, multiply, distribute, and I get a 3x plus 3, okay? 4, I graphed AB. I'm looking for the perpendicular bisector, so the midpoint is right here at 1/2, 0. I know the slope is up 2 over 1 of AB, so then the opposite slope is negative 1/2. I use my equation. I plug 0, which is the midpoint for Y, and I plugged 1/2 in for X, and I simplified it so I get a Y equals a negative 1/2 X plus 4, which looks right. Number 5, it looks like this, so I know it is a polynomial. I have zeros at negative 2, negative 1, and 1, which makes the equation of X plus 2, X plus 1, X minus 1. There's some value A that I need to find, so I picked a point on the graph, which is 0, 1, that point right there. Plug 0 in for X, and I plugged 1 in for Y, and I solved for A, and A turned out to be negative 1/2. So I put the negative 1/2 here, and this then becomes your equation, negative 1/2, X plus 2, X plus 1, X minus 1, okay? 6, I'm going to do a logarithm. So first I divide it by 3. Then I did the log base 10 of 5. My calculator gave me about a 0.69897. B, I can do this. I can do this in my calculator, or I can do the change of base for log 6 divided by log 3. I also have that fancy button in my calculator, okay? C, oh, never mind. On to 7. I just did synthetic division, and I ended up, the 2, 1, negative 13, 6, brought down the 2, and I multiplied and got 4, add, and I get 10, add, and I get negative 3, multiply, and I get 0, which is cool because then I know its remainder is 0, goes in evenly, so my answer is 2x squared plus 5x minus 3. 8, I needed a factor to find all the zeros, so I set it equal to 0, and I grouped it. So I took out an x squared out of the first group, took out a 9 out of the second group. Both groups have an x plus 1 in common, so I pulled that out and have left an x squared plus 9. Then I did my mini equations. I'm going to get an I. Minus 9, you have to take the square root of negative 9, which gives me an I, so plus minus 3i, and here I get the negative 1. Okay, on number 9, what I have to do is, I know I can't divide by 0. That's a really bad thing, but I factor to help myself out. So x cannot equal 3 or negative 3. Now there's a thing called a whole if it's removable. Removable means it cancels out. So I can get rid of the problem, but it's still there, it's still whole. So once I cancel that out, it changes to an equation of x plus 2 over x plus 3. Then I can plug in the 3. Once I plug in the 3, I get the y value of 5, 6. My whole is at 3, 5, 6. Now, the negative 3 I can't get rid of. X cannot equal negative 3, so that's a vertical asymptote. Okay? 10. Let's see. I know sine is the y over the r, so y is 4 and the r is 5. I don't know the x by Pythagorean's theorem. The x turns out to be plus or minus 3, but it must be minus 3 because I'm in quadrant 3. So I've got my r, my y, and my x. Tangent is y over x, so it's going to be a 4 over negative 3. My secant's r over my x, so it's going to be my 5 over my negative 3. Okay? 11, first of all, I graphed a sine curve from 0 to pi because I need two sine curves from 3 to negative 3. And then I just bumped it, shifted to the pi 8s, right, which is 1 square, so just shift the whole graph pi 8. Okay? Moving along, but you can always stop it. 12, to do a conversion, I just use the formula. 100 over 180 times pi is about 1.47. 13, I just use the conversion. It's my radians times 180 over pi. Pi's cancel. I used my calculator. I got 75 degrees. 14, for the area of the sector, I need this formula. Theta over 360 times pi r squared. I plugged in my 100 degrees for theta, my 5 for my radius. I used my calculator. Okay. 15 took some time. I knew that since these two are equal, that was 70 degrees, that was 70 degrees. So then I found this is 40 degrees from 180 degrees, okay? I knew that would have to be 110 from 180 degrees. So then I started tackling this thing. I needed to find this angle, and I used the law of sines to find this angle. Once I got angle A, then I could find side X right here. I did by the law of sines. Then I could finally find this angle from 180 degrees, law of sines, and I finished it up, okay? There might be an easier way, but I didn't see it. Finally, the last one, I needed a common denominator, so I multiplied by each other, 1 plus sine over 1 plus sine, cosine over cosine. So my common denominator would be cosine 1 plus sine. My numerator becomes a sine plus sine squared plus this cosine squared, but that equals 1. Sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. So I'm left with 1 plus sine. Well, that's easy. Cancel, cancel. 1 over cosine, the answer is just 1 over cosine is secant. So that's all I have. It went pretty fast, but you can stop it and pause it anytime you need to.